My favorite plants of all time are ones that are just really hard to kill, because then you can do basically anything as long as you give them enough light and water them occasionally, and they still like won't give you any problems. And I just can't really deal with very fussy plants. So these are my top 6 favorite hard to kill plants. And obviously I find them hard to kill, but we all have our different experiences. So if you've killed these, don't feel bad at all. It might have just been that it didn't like your house. So it might not have been that you did anything wrong or anything like that necessarily, but these are generally harder to kill plants. So the first one is the Brazil Philodendron, and specifically this one because I have a lot of different varieties of the heartleaf philodendron, but the Brazil Philodendron seems to be the hardiest for me. I have mine back here wrapped around a pole, and I'll probably reel it closer to you guys so you guys can see it because it's hard to take off all the time. So here's my Brazil, and it's been very happy lately because it's summertime and it's right next to the window. And as you can see, it started to get its red veined stems over here, and the leaves are coming in a lot more pinkish. So it's been super happy for me lately, and it honestly travels the entire bottom bit of this rack. So it's been growing like a weed, and I do need to chop it up soon, but I just really like how it's sitting right now. But yeah, it's just been very good for me. And this is one that I took on a road trip across states, and it sat at the bottom of my car for literally 2 days while it was snowing outside. So it was like below freezing temperatures, but it still did very good and had absolutely no problems bouncing back. The past couple times I've watered it, the leaves have literally been like completely flimsy and completely like dried out. So it's been very forgiving in terms of me forgetting to water it. And yeah, so it's just one of those plants that is just very hardy, and you can pretty much give it whatever you want and it will take it and continue to grow. The next one is the Peperomia obtusifolia, and this one I mentioned a million times is just completely okay with just almost going to the grave and then bouncing back right away. I've rehabbed 3 of these so far, and it felt like they were just almost gone. You know, like when the leaves are super flimsy and you just know that that's not a good sign, especially with Peperomia. And it's usually just a sign that they're about to keel over and die. Well, this one was basically at that state, and he, was completely happy with what I gave him and everything. And they're generally very pest resistant. Like, they can still obviously get pests, but overall they will just basically take whatever you throw at them, which makes them a lot hardier than many of the other plants that I own. It's always very easy to tell with these as well when they need to be watered. Their leaves are always very thick, and if they fold super easily, then you know it's like time for them to be watered. So yeah, it's always super easy to tell when they want to be watered, but even if you forget for a bit, they bounce back so easily. The next one is one that I know not everybody likes, and not everybody has such an easy time taking care of them. But I honestly think it boils down to one mistake, and I'll tell you what that mistake is in a bit. But string of hearts have been one of the easiest plants for me to take care of ever. They're another one that I traveled across states with, and once again sat in below freezing temperatures for 2 days in a row. And they didn't even drop a leaf. Like, now they're dropping leaves just because they're growing more, so now the older leaves are dropping. But overall, like, I've had no issues with them at all. And the reason I think people do have issues with them is because they don't get enough light. Because obviously string of hearts need a lot of light, and if they're not getting that, they're going to show you very quickly and they're going to die very quickly. Another mistake though is that people tend to overwater these as well. So string of hearts are another one of those plants that will tell you when they want to be watered, and the leaves will kind of fold a bit more, they'll get a bit wrinkly and kind of flimsy. And it kind of, people sometimes feel the newer leaves and they don't realize that they're not feeling the super mature leaves, and the mature leaves are the only ones that will tell you if it needs to be watered or not. So lack of good light and then overwatering are probably the 2 biggest killers of string of hearts. Here's mine right now. It's been growing so well for the past couple months, especially because it's finally hit 80 degrees consistently here in Texas. And it's getting so long, and I've propagated quite a few bits of it and put it back into the pot, so then it trails out a lot more, and then it gets a lot thicker, because this used to just be 4 little strands. And if you can see here at the top, so here at the top, right here in this corner, you can see a little new sprout, and that is from me wrapping one of the vines around, and it obviously rooted, so now it is a new sprout up here. So now we have extra new growth on this string of hearts, which I'm super excited about. And also I have a variegated string of hearts that basically died right when I got it, but I managed to save a strand of it, and I've been propagating it in water to grow its roots out a bit more, and that is finally starting to grow quite a bit more as well. So I'm super excited about that one as well, and hopefully it grows just as quick as this one. I just need to get it established first. Another one that is super easy, and I find that the variegated version of this one is actually easier than the regular version for me, is the Ficus Elastica. And I have the ruby and I have a small burgundy right now, but the ruby has been absolutely phenomenal for me. It did go dormant in the winter, which kind of worried me, but now it's finally putting out a lot of good consistent growth, and I couldn't be happier. It is one of my favorite plants, and I was so worried that it was just slowly dying when it wasn't growing at all. But now it seems happier than ever, and it's literally putting out a new leaf like every single week or so. And I feel like this is one of those underrated plants just because not many people like having them around, or maybe, you know, it's just harder to tell when they need to be watered and all that sort of stuff. But honestly, it's like probably my top choice for like big floor plants is the ruby Ficus Elastica. And this one as well, it's kind of harder to tell when they need to be watered, so I just do like the soil check to see if it needs to be watered, and then I just wait until it's dry basically. But I have heard from some people that they can take more water than you think. It's only if you severely overwater them that they end up having an issue. But yeah, and it does take a bit more maintenance, I guess, in terms of like you need to keep the leaves a lot cleaner because they have those bigger leaves. They get a lot dustier, and you just need to make sure you wipe those down periodically. But I mean, I think you should do that for any of your plants anyways, so I don't view that as like extra maintenance or care. Next on this hard to kill list is one that I have overwatered several times already, and it's been fine. Like, it's growing still and it's doing almost better than ever now. So I'm not too worried about it, and it doesn't seem like it, like obviously it doesn't like being overwatered, but it doesn't seem like it really did that much damage. And that is the Philodendron Birkin. And this is just one of those ones that's really pretty anyways. It's just got such pretty striping on in the leaves, and I just like that it's kind of green, but you also get the like white bits as well, because sometimes with variegated plants you have to choose if you want a predominantly green or predominantly like white plant. And this one, like, it will throw out the super variegated ones, and then even though it's getting the same lighting, it will throw out some more green ones. So it kind of always keeps you guessing, which is kind of fun with some plants. But yeah, this one, like I said, I've overwatered it several times, and it kind of came to me overwatered. So it's been able to get through all of that sort of stuff, and I think it only dropped 2 leaves in the midst of all of that. So I have this one, and then I have another one that was in a 4-inch pot for way too long, and it still did totally fine. It still was actively growing, and it was still giving me lots of pretty leaves. My other one isn't quite as variegated as this one, but I mean, that's why I like the two together, because you get that kind of contrast between the two. But it's just another one that's very fun to keep around, and it is a bit harder to tell when it needs to be watered, but I haven't had any trouble when I don't like water it on time. So this one is definitely a bit more tolerant, I would say, to underwatering than a lot of plants. But once again, just water when the soil is dry, and yeah, you'll be good if you do that. Another one that I didn't expect to be as easy care and easy going as it is the Burl Marks Philodendron. It was a great surprise that a plant with such big leaves was just so easy to care for. And this one is one that I haven't, since it's such a big plant, I haven't really been good at keeping track of when I water it in terms of like how dry the soil is and all that sort of stuff. And it's quite like, it's a hard thing to tell when it's such a big plant and the leaves don't really droop or do anything to tell you when it needs to be watered. But I kind of just fill up the bottom tray with water every now and then and just let it soak it all up for a day or so, and it's been totally fine for me, and it's even giving me new leaves like every week again. So I'm super pleased with that, and I think the plant is just so pretty. And once again, kind of like the Ficus Elastica, you do need to wipe down the leaves a bit more than your average plant. But this is just because it's got bigger leaves, so it's just gonna get dustier quicker, and you're gonna notice it quicker because the leaves are so big, and it's not like, you know, the tiny pothos leaves sometimes where you just don't really see as much on there. But yeah, it's been super hard to kill because it's just, mine is such a big plant, but they grow pretty quickly. I find that like common plants with bigger leaves are a lot harder to kill for me anyways than like some of the smaller leaved ones. Obviously the rare plants with the big leaves are quite easy to kill and sometimes have a reputation for that, but the Burl Marks definitely is not one of those, and I've really enjoyed having him, and I just think that he's been super pretty and super like different to a lot of the other plants that I have. So those are my top 6 favorite hard to kill plants. I'm sure it was a bit refreshing to not have like pothos or any like traditional cactus succulents be in this list, because I always find the cactus and the succulents to be really hard to kill. Only succulent, I guess if you want to call it a succulent, is a string of hearts, and that one, there's a clear indication for why people kill those, so I don't think that that's necessarily as hard to kill as some other succulents. But I hope you found this video helpful. I hope that you agree with me. If you don't, just comment what you think down below, because I like hearing all the different opinions, and I mean, they're never offensive because we all just have such different experience with these plants. So I'd love to hear from you guys, and thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it.